Retirement really is getting out of a job where you have to punch in and out and be there every day. That's retirement. I think it's actually healthy for kids to see their parents work hard. Make the world a better place because you got up this morning. If you think you're not enjoying life, why are you doing it? Ask some people you really trust when you're going through a hard time and get their opinion.
Welcome back, investor. We have an episode of Passive Income Adventures for you. Special episode today with my friend Jeff Flam from Salt Lake City. Hello, Jeff.
Hello.
I see you calling in from your office.
Hey, this is where I spend most of my time. Even though I have an office, I'm in my car more than I'm in my office.
I have recorded a lot of podcast episodes from my car, right? And sometimes people don't even know because I just put on a virtual background and I'm hot tethered into my phone, and you just got to make it work when you're busy. So appreciate you
Yeah.
taking the time to visit with my guests. If this is your first time listening to the show, we talk all about how to take more adventures on your passive income. It's basically a show sharing stories from people that I know that are doing interesting things, and they've been able to bring their best intentions to the forefront because they're not worried about money in the background. So they're able to get their money working for them, work hard for your money, and then get your money working hard for you on investments. So we talk about all things entrepreneurship, business investing. We have a heavy real estate focus, but we talk about all sorts of different asset classes. And we talk to people who have either actually done it themselves or are helping their investors make passive income. So Jeff, how about you jump in and give us a little bit about your history and what you've discovered about kind of life and income and business along the way?
Sounds great. I started in insurance business doing wealth management and investments for folks back when I was 25 years old. But on the side, I bought an old home in Ogden, Utah, in kind of a downtown area, one of those big old brick homes I used to build in the 20s. And I converted it to a triplex. So we remodeled the main level, lived there, and when we were first married, and then did the upstairs and the downstairs and rented them out. It worked really well. And so I bought the one across the street and did the same thing, and then one up the street to where I finally had 10 units I had done. And then just maybe 6, 7 years after I'd graduated from college and been doing insurance, I had an idea that big companies needed somebody to help them with all of the health plans that are out there. Because the HMO Act was passed in 77 that said if you have more than 25 employees in a location, you have to offer them 2 health plans. And if there's HMOs in your area, you have to offer them 2 HMOs. So that became a mandated law with a big penalty attached if you didn't do it. After 180 days, if you didn't comply, it was a $10,000 a day penalty. So every big company was offering HMOs in every city that had them. So it went from, in 77, there were 17 HMOs in the country. By 1985, there were 400.
Wow.
So all these companies are getting hit up like Marriott, Kmart, Sears, Walmart. They're in every city. So they're getting hit by all 400. And they don't know which ones were good. And at the time, everything was handled by the states. So there was no national repository of information. So I talked to my business partner. We did insurance together. And I said, why don't we go build the first database with all HMO information in it and go out and sell it to big companies and be their consultant? So we decided to do that, but we decided to handle the whole open enrollment for them. And instead of doing packets from each of the health plans, somebody goes home and tries to compare Blue Cross with some other health plan in their area. And they're not in the same format. They spend all day trying to find out maternity benefit or substance abuse benefit. They're looking all through it. It was almost impossible for a CEO, let alone the mailroom kid.
Yeah.
So we decided instead of using all of these HMO materials, we would print a booklet for every employee that showed their options on comparison charts with frequently asked questions and the cost of each. So they could make a decision in 5 minutes. And so we went out and did a healthcare conference, set up a booth, let us manage your HMOs. And we had a big stack, go from this to one booklet. People come look at it. Really? You do this? I go, yep. So we got appointments at that conference with Sears, Holiday Inn, Marriott, and Kodak. So we decided to just do it all in one business trip. So we set up appointments to go to Chicago and then to Memphis and on to Washington, D.C. and New York. So we go to the first one. They bought it. Sears bought it. And we go to Holiday Inns. They bought it. And then we went to Marriott. They bought it. And then on our way to Kodak, we got a call from Xerox. And they said, our friends at Kodak says you manage health plans. He go, yeah, could you stop and see us while you're back here? I said, sure. So we rented a car, we went to New Haven, Connecticut, met with Xerox and sold them. So on our first business trip, we sold 5 Fortune 500 companies. And so we knew we had something. So after that, the next year we went to the very biggest and sold General Motors and Walmart and just went down from the biggest companies in America based on number of employees, just went down and sold 127 out of 130, the biggest
That's an
companies in America. So
unbelievable close rate.
so after 10 years, we were managing the benefits for 23 million people, and everybody started trying to buy us because we were taking business from them. The big consulting firms, Mercer and Hewitt and others, they were all seeing how much business we were taking from them because we became the group that did all employee benefits and employee communications. And so ADP came along, made us an offer. So we sold.
Yeah.
So to backtrack, I started and made the money flipping homes, remodeling homes on the side while I was doing insurance and sold those. And that gave me 390,000 of equity. That was a lot back in 1985. That would be like a million now.
Yeah.
So I sold them and took that. And that's what we used to start the company. So it gave me the capital to go do something big. So what I tell people, if you're looking for an opportunity to make money, look for two things. Look for something that technology has changed, that with the aid of technology, you can go in and do it better, faster, cheaper. Or a law has changed and they're requiring something. So either of those create opportunity. Watch for changes in federal or state legislation and watch for things technology. Now, right now, there's huge opportunities for people with AI. If you can figure out how to take AI and make something way better, whether it's a marketing company using AI, a PR company, even it could be real estate where you're using AI to find you properties. It could be a lot of things. Anyway, if you can figure out how to marry AI with current way of doing things and make it better, that's opportunity to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
So that's the tip I'd give people. So when I sold ADP, we sold the ADP for a big number. And my partner and I had bootstrapped it. So we really owned all the company other than what we'd given to the executives and our own kids. And so we ended up with quite a bit of money. And so I had been really unhappy in Utah that there wasn't a good business park. And so we had bought 60 acres and built three of our own buildings because we had 1,400 employees. And when ADP bought us, they didn't buy the buildings. They didn't want to own real estate. So we kept the buildings. And our contractor, Layton Construction, Dave Layton, reached out to me and said, there's 125 acres for here in South Salt Lake in South Jordan. Why don't we buy it and build a business park? I said, let's do it. So we built the top business park in Utah for many years. It's been rated the best. It's called River Park in South Jordan.
Yeah.
Has 13 office buildings, 10 restaurants, a hotel, a school, and the number one gym in Utah, Lifetime Fitness.
Yep.
So we master planned it and decided what would make the best business park. And then we went and found everybody we wanted in the park. We found the restaurants we wanted and got them to come there, sold them. So we're good sales. We got Lifetime Fitness to come to Utah. And so it's been a home run for us. And so that just led me into a lot of real estate things, including building a resort in Hawaii.
Yes. Okay. We could just write a whole book on what you just said right there. So I'm trying to figure out what direction we want to go here. With the theme of the show, we're talking more about passive income and how mostly people wanting to slow down a little bit and spend more time with their family. And one of the things that has always impressed me since I first met you was that you don't talk about slowing down, but yet you talk a lot about balancing your personal life and your business life. You can't really separate those out. It's like you are the kind of father is the kind of business person you are, the kind of way that you worship is the same way that you do business or the same way you manage your finances. And so from your standpoint, talk to me about slowing down. Talk to me about what retirement looks like. Talk to me about what doing fulfilling work really looks like because you don't have to own that resort. You don't have to run the Zenith Mastermind. You don't have to do Infinite Mind. You don't have to do any of that. So paint me what that looks like for you right now.
Okay, here's what retirement really is: getting out of a job where you have to punch in and out and be there every day.
Okay.
That's retirement.
Yep.
When you own your own company, you have investments like you do, like I do, there's no reason to ever get out of them. You just hire somebody else to do day-to-day management because you don't really want to retire. I've watched the people that retire, especially if they sell a company early, their friends are still working. Who are
Yep.
they going to golf with every day? Their friends are still at work and they go downhill fast. They start getting depressed. A lot of them turn to drugs and other things because they're bored. So I tell people you don't want to retire unless you're in a job working for somebody where you have to punch in and out. What you want to do is find things you like to do that you can invest in. Now, what I tell people, if you want passive income and you don't want to have to manage it, and believe me, most projects don't make you over 10 or 12%. So you find a good VC, a venture capital fund, or a real estate fund that's consistently been around 10 years or longer. They've been through some cycles and they have made their investors a consistent double digit return every year. That's what you want to find. You have to manage, it's diversified into a number of properties or companies. That's what you want to find. Chase Thomas in Zenith, he takes money and puts it in money market and does some kind of derivatives with it. And he's been kicking out a 12% return to his people. And yet it's liquid. He can get their money out within less than 30 days.
Nice.
So you need to find that kind of a project unless you really want to work and manage an apartment. You get a duplex or apartment, you're the handyman. They're calling you all hours of the night to come fix something, right? The secret in owning apartments is you've got to own enough that you can afford to have a manager and a repairman. What would you call him? A handyman
Mhm.
that actually can take care of all of those things. And what I found in the real estate business, we build townhouses and apartments. A lot of people think, oh, I can buy this 12 plex and it's going to be great. They're going to manage it because they can't afford to hire a full time manager
Correct.
unless they get a company that does management of smaller properties. So they either have to do one or the other. But the secret spot is 100 units. Once you have 100 units, you've got enough revenue that you can hire a full time leasing person, an on site person, and a full time engineer to repair things. So that's the secret on it. But like I say, the downside in getting into real estate is a couple things. You should buy your own home always. If you've got the money and you find an area you want to be and you're happy to stay there, get into a home. But other than that, I tell people go and buy in little apartments unless you're going to flip them. It's a lot of work because I did it. I sold those 10 that I had and moved into something different. It was a lot of work. And so I tell people get into a fund. It's much easier.
Yeah. What about the people running the building in the fund? Are they looking at this? I just love running apartment buildings, or is it because they're younger and
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
want a job?
Well, it's like Bridge Capital. John Pennington and his partners started back in 2007.
Hmm.
It's 44 billion under management. And what they did is had an idea. And this was before the big crash, but the crash actually worked in their favor in 2008 and 9. They were going to buy and rundown apartments because here's what happens. People buy an apartment building and they live off the cash. And a lot of things start getting old, but they just don't think about it because they just are spending the cash as it comes in. So at some point, they decide to retire, go to sell the apartment. It's a little run down. It needs paint, it needs sidewalks replaced, or parking lot, or a new roof. It's got some deferred maintenance, which costs a bunch of money to put in. So they've got to sell it at a discount. Or they've died and the kids ended up with it. The kids want the cash right now. So they would go, they had a group that just called but they're big enough now they can do this. But originally, when the original four partners started, they each had a role in it. Somebody was finding them. Somebody was overseeing the remodeling of apartments. Somebody was doing the marketing, and somebody was raising money.
Yep.
So each partner had their own responsibility. Now what they do is they have guys that are dialing for dollars all day. They're calling everybody that owns an apartment and said, "Have you ever thought of selling your apartment complex?" And the people may say yay or nay. Well, keep our number in case you decide to. Once people have started in their mind thinking, oh, I could sell this and have money, a lot of them in the next 30, 60, 90 days decide, let's see what they'll give me for it. So they would go in and they have contracted with an inspector in each state. So they just hire these guys, not full time. They're just a vendor. And so they hire an inspector to go by and they have a form. How's the roof? What condition? How soon will it need to be replaced? The parking lot, the outside of the building, the paint, the siding. Then they go into the inside and look, is it just need lipstick? It needs some paint, new carpet, freshened up? Or is it old and it's got old bathrooms, old kitchen, and it really needs a redo? Once they know that, they can put all the numbers on paper. They know what it's going to cost them per apartment, maybe 40,000 per apartment to go in and put in, or 20,000. It just depends on what size it is. But they say we can put in a new kitchen for 5,500 bucks. We can do bathrooms for 2,500. They know what their costs are. So they can come in and analyze. So what they would do is go buy these apartments and start the ones that are empty, they go in and remodel first. Then they start raising the rent. And as people leave, they go in and remodel theirs. And they just keep raising the rent and get rid of the bad people because they're buying apartments. A lot of them run down, druggies there, just not the best tenants, right? So they get them out and then they have a marketing team that markets online. Come here and get your first month free. And people come and look at it and rent them. They're nice. They're brand new apartments. They're totally redone. So that's the model they use. And what they've done is put in a lot of these rougher areas where they bought them, they go to the city and get approval to make it, what do you call it, multi-use, get it zoned for multi-use,
Yep.
and take one apartment on the main level and make it a coffee donut shop. And all of the policemen and firemen in that area can come there every morning free and get donuts and coffee. Once you have those people on site, the riffraff's gone. They all move. They don't come in that area at all. So that's the model that Bridge Capital's done. And they have made 12 to 26% a year for their investors. And the investors don't have to do anything. And that's a good model to look at. So that gives you some ideas of what they do. They're in that business to do that.
Yes. It's similar. I took John out to lunch, I don't know, maybe 2, 3 years ago before we started our fund, just because I wanted to find out like how much work is this fund management thing actually? Because we were to the point where we're wanting to not retire, but we didn't know how big of a business we wanted to scale. Because I had talked to you several times about the difference between scaling a big business, how much time that takes. And I was concerned about taking the time away from the kids. Like my husband had already been out working in the W-2 for many years. And we were just really torn on if we wanted to grow our apartment business similar to the model you're talking about with Bridge, or if we wanted to switch over to the fund model where we wanted to just raise money for other people's funds. It was a very difficult process that we went through to decide how we wanted to spend our time and how that fit into how we wanted to grow our portfolio or grow our personal wealth. So if I had taken you out to lunch that day and talked to you about I have 6 kids, you have 6 kids, there's just a lot going on. What would be the advice that you would have given me, like how we're going to balance building an income while we still want to spend a lot of time with our family? What do you say to the people who are like in their 40s or maybe almost 50?
I think that's really hard because I sold my company when I was 43
Mhm.
and my oldest kid was 17. And the reason I decided to sell, we were going to go public, but they made us a great offer. And if we'd gone public, we'd have probably gotten twice as much. But I'd been on the road the next 5 years constantly, outselling analysts on why they should invest in our company.
The
And
roadshow.
I was done. I wanted to spend time with my family. So I think there's a time and season for everything. People that are in their 20s and 30s and think they can do that, just play with their kids and do something on the side. I've not seen it done. Okay. Being honest, I've not seen somebody really pull that off,
Yeah,
except Nate Lambert.
that's
He's one that travels everywhere with his kids,
that's true.
and somehow he does it right. But most people can't do that. It's really hard. I think you have to put in the time and then just make sure you're carving out time at night with your kids and weekends and spending quality time with them. But I think it's actually healthy for kids to see their parents work hard.
Yes.
And I think there's a problem if you're out taking your kids somewhere every month to where they don't have anything to look forward to. If you've taken them to every country in Disneyland 12 times and cruises 10 times, what do they have to look forward to in life? They
Yes.
think that's what life is. So I think you have to have balance in your life. You can do too much for kids to where they think that's what life is, or you can balance it. We work hard and then we play hard.
Okay, and this is something that Nate talks about a lot. He says, "I wonder," because his kids are a lot younger than mine, and he says, "I'm worried that they're growing up with a dad who looks like he never has to go to work, and they're gonna think that this is normal." And then he'll say, "But why couldn't this be normal? Why couldn't this be normal for the kids to grow up and run a business like this?" And so he He has often said that he struggles with that same concept of how much to do, how
Yeah.
much to make them do themselves, how much time to spend, how much time to spend working.
Within your own 6 kids, 2 or 3 of them are going to be really hard workers, and 2 or 3 just want to have fun. The ones that don't want to work hard, if they haven't figured out how to do that and make a living, you're going to be helping support them. They're going to think dad's there to support them. So I think it's hard, that model. So what I say to people is if you want to get into real estate, my second son, he's 44.
Okay.
He got his master's degree from in England,
Cambridge, Oxford,
Oxford.
King's Scholar.
Okay. He graduated from Oxford and he became a COO of a company. They sold for a lot of money. He got some payout on it because he owned some stock. Went to another company. It was a 5-year plan. He's been there 8 years. He's tired of the grind and his stock's vested. So he decided to leave a couple months ago and partner with another guy who flips homes in Alabama. So now he's doing that. I'm like, okay, but the model really works. They go find homes that they pay back taxes on vacant. They get them for 3,000, 6,000, 10,000. But what they do is watch for them in a good neighborhood, near a good neighborhood, so that a good neighborhood can expand. So they're looking at a street next to a better neighborhood
Yep.
with some empty homes. They go buy them, put 100,000, 110,000, gut them, put everything new in. They remodel them, new roofs, new paint, new floors, new drywall, new plumbing, new electrical. So people come in and they sell the homes for 159 to 259, depending on the size. Okay. They can make 50 to 100,000 on each home and they're doing 5 a month. You can make really good money doing it, but they've got a system. They've got their own contractors that they do homes in a row, several on the same block. These guys move from one to the next. And when they're waiting for drywall, they're overdoing something on the other one, but they complete 5 homes a month. And when he said, I want to go do this, I met with the partner that needs help because it's growing so fast. And I said, this is a no brainer. This guy's got a system down. Well, you've got a system down that's proven to make money. Jump on the system, right? And that's what he's doing. So all of my kids, it's interesting. All 5 boys graduated in finance, and one of them owns a huge development company. The second one is the one now flipping homes in Alabama. The third one owns his own construction company called Dojo Construction.
Mhm.
Spent 20 years with Leighton, my former partner,
Yeah.
and then went on his own. And now he's big. And my fourth boy does land development. He goes and buys land from farmers and gets it rezoned and sells it to builders. And my fifth son bought a plumbing company. And now he's buying an HVAC company. They're all in some kind of real estate development or building because they've found there's a lot of money there. And as they get bigger, they can hire superintendents and project managers, and they don't have to be there every day.
Yeah.
They just have to check in with them. So they're in their 40s and 30s, late 30s and 40s, and they all have these businesses, but they're able to play with their families when they want.
Yeah.
So now,
Yeah.
the book I would recommend anybody in their 20s or 30s, maybe even their 40s, is a book called Buy Then Build. And it talks about if you want to be your own boss and own your own company, go buy an existing one that has good cash flow. The owners are retiring, they're baby boomers. Their kids don't want to work hard. Their kids want to sit and play games or whatever, but they're not willing to own the roofing company or the plumbing company. So you go and negotiate with the owners to pay them over 5 years, take an SBA loan, pay them half and the other half over 5 years. And then you go in with social marketing and you grow it because they've never done that.
Yeah.
And you figure out how to do value added services. So someone who's wanting to figure out a new career, read that book, Buy, Then Build, because it shows 90% of those will be successful. Only 10 to 15% of startups are here in 10 years.
That's and those are compelling numbers when they say 90% of businesses will fail. But then if you buy an existing one and run it, you have a 90-ish%
Yeah.
success rate. And that's something that even somebody in their 40s can get their head wrapped around because we have investors call us. We're 506C accredited investors only, but we'll occasionally get somebody who's maybe in their 50s and they're not accredited. And then when they find out we're accredited only, they sometimes will confide and say, I don't know what we're going to do because we're 50 or 55 years old. We're not even accredited investors. I have no idea how we're going to retire. And I have to give them like a tough answer. You've got to go figure out a way to make more money. And that's oftentimes running a business alongside of your careers. And it's a very difficult spot for people to be found in. And so I feel like it's easier for me to give that advice to a 30-year-old than it is to a 55-year-old.
Yeah. It's like buying things at the right time too. My son that bought the plumbing company bought it 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
And when he bought it, they had just raised interest rates and nobody was building new homes. The interest rates have been raised in the last year. So home sales came to abrupt halt. So you saw a lot of mortgage companies go under, title companies closing down because home sales just dropped. So when he went in and negotiated, there wasn't really anything of value because they had to let all their plumbers go because they were just working in new starts, in new construction. So when there's no new construction, they had to let their plumbers go. So he went and hired their six best plumbers back and started bidding with his brothers and others that he knew because he knew a lot of people. Let me bid on your plumbing. And he had experienced plumbers and he's grown it now in just 2.5 years. He's got 46 plumbers. So if he sold it now, he could walk away after 2 or 3 years with just several $1,000,000 because he's got a big business going. Again, you've got to either buy it right. It's the same as real estate. If you want to make money on a home, buy it. If you want to make money on a used car, buy it. So you just have to look around till you find that deal where somebody's will close quickly because they want the cash. They're getting divorced, they're moving out of state, somebody's died, something where they want the cash quickly. They're willing to negotiate. And a lot of times they'll take a way lower offer for something that closes with no contingencies right away.
Yes.
So those are the kinds of things to look for.
It's the same thing you're talking about with buying the apartment buildings that are a little bit run down. I remember at the first Zenith event that we went to, you had Michelle Tucker come and talk, and she was talking about how people try to sell a business after they're bored of it, they're burned out of it, it's run down, it was height here, but it's starting to turn down. And she said try and sell that when nobody really wants it at that point, and somebody's going to come in and they're going to get a deal. And she said, don't let that business that comes and gets swept up as a steal because you waited too long to sell it. She's like, you're going
Yeah.
to sell a home, you're going to fix it up, you're going to get a handyman in there, you're going to put on a fresh coat of paint, you're going to make it look really nice. She says, selling a business is the same way. So we're looking for on the buy side is somebody who's let it go a little bit
Right.
foolishly and not put the money back in and not kept it up nice or waited until they got burned out. So I think that it almost makes me sad sometimes when I sell a business that's in really good shape and I know that it's not going to be a great business for the buyer. Cause I'm like, if I was your financial friend, like I would tell you not to buy this because I'm taking good care of it, but good luck with it. Let's see how it
Yeah.
turns out for you.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, I get talking really fast because I have so many things I could share, right? So if I get going too fast, just wave at me, slow down,
No,
and I'll
you're
slow down.
good.
Part
You're
of the
good.
problem is I have a speed reading company.
Oh,
So I read at 800 words a minute. And so when you read fast, you tend to talk fast because your reading speed and your speaking speed are about the same, at least until you learn to speed read and quit saying the words. And so if anybody wants to read better, and I tell people, you want to be successful, read books. You don't need to go to seminars and listen to people. Just get out good books, but learn how to read well and fast so you can get through a book in 3 or 4 hours and you can find the things that are gems for you. Because as you're scanning through, some stuff's not meaningful to you, some is. And then when I read a book, if the first third of the book hasn't grabbed me, I chuck the book.
yeah.
I give it to thrift because the first third isn't catching my interest. It's not the book for me. So you don't have to finish a book just because you bought it. Don't waste your time. Get into books that grab you and you're learning every chapter, you learn something and start reading and you will have all kinds of ideas what to do. But get some good books, business books, and read them. So this is a little pitch. Those that aren't good readers, go on the App Store. I've sold 300 million of speed reading over the years. I was on an infomercial for 7 years and we did almost 300 million in sales.
I think I bought
Selling
that back when I was in high school.
Yeah, you probably did. We've had 2 million users. We now have free in the App Store because during COVID, I could see kids are all getting behind in reading. And so I see the scores because it's an online program. I can see how everybody's doing. Kids used to read at about 200 words a minute. High school kids, they're down to 170.
Wow.
And so they're not as good at readers. They don't spell as well. So I made a free version and put it on the App Store, right? Readers are leaders. Really,
Hold up. You
it's
lost
true.
your
If you're a
sound.
good reader, you're going to be successful if you read a lot. I don't know anybody who's a great reader that hasn't figured out how these books have propelled them into success. Read.
This is funny because my mom has a story that she tells about me when I was in, I think it was second grade, and I was screaming and yelling at her that I didn't want to go to school. And I said, "Why do I have to go to school?" And she said, "You have to go to school so you can learn things so that you can do what you want and be successful." And I said, "I already know how to read. I don't
I'm
know how
sure.
need to know anything else." And at the time, she was a little upset and made me go to school, but she said, "In years to come," I've realized like that really was all you needed to know because you just read all the time and took care of it on your own. And I thought, yeah, that's true. If you know how to read, like the whole
The
world is open to you. And the faster you read, the faster you can start implementing the things that you learn. It also helps your critical thinking because what you just said, if you read the first third is usually the best third. They say they put the good stuff up front. And if you aren't able to
yeah.
make the critical choice to throw that out or keep reading it, then you have wasted your time. And so when you read a lot, you get really good at critical information, just saying, is this useful to me? Does it dovetail with something I already know? Is this not useful? It's not the Bible. I can throw stuff out that doesn't fit me, right? So that there's a huge skill there. And I
Infinite
know that
mind
is it infinite mind?
exercises. And we really sell it now more to
Yes. Very good.
seniors because we've got baby boomers that have money.
Yep.
Kids in school don't have money. So I'm looking at with an upgradable version that comes out April 1st. It'll have a premium version that you can buy for 9 a month or 79 bucks a year. And it's way more comprehensive. The free one's pretty simple, but it works. If you want to get into a better one, you pay a little more and
Yes.
like the Duolingo model, and that'll be out in April. But what we found is 58% of our users since we came out in the App Store, our average age of users is 58. Okay. So it's not young kids. But what we're finding is there's a lot of
Okay.
people in their 30s or late 30s, 40s that are buying it for their kids too. So it's for anybody second grade up. So when
Hmm.
you sign up, you put what grade level you're at, and it will feed you all the information and the speeds based on your grade level.
Yes, and it's a beautiful product, and one of the things I like about it is that you just hit it on the head. Like, young people, they don't have any money, but that doesn't mean that they don't
Yeah.
deserve to have services, and the founder of Duolingo says the same thing. He said, "Who's paying for Duolingo? It's the United States, it's Canada, it's some English-speaking countries of Western Europe." He said, "These are the ones that are paying to basically finance Duolingo for the developing countries who need to learn
Right.
English." So it's the English-speaking countries who are basically paying for everybody else to be learning, and he says, "It's a beautiful model
And that,
because you wanna help people, you
yep.
wanna do things for people, let the people who
And
pay
that's
for it
why we
pay,
did a free
and everybody
version. So
benefits from the
no
free
one has
version."
an excuse not to do it as long as they've got a phone. It's all done on tablets and phone now. We don't do it on laptops and stuff anymore.
Yeah, I agree. As a former photographer, I would deliver wedding photos to my brides, and they
Mm.
would be like, "I don't know how to look at these. Do you have one for my phone?" I'm like, "You don't have a computer anymore?" But yeah, the world is changing, like you said, you gotta keep up with it, you gotta keep changing with it. But let's look at you said, "Watch what's changing," but give me the Jeff Bezos version of watch for what's not changing and dig into that. Do you do some of that in your own business as well?
That's a good question. My businesses, I have several, right? I do a lot of real estate development, and then I have a software company, and then we have a hotel. And so when I read, I try to think of how does this apply to one of those businesses? And I'll always have an idea. So when I read a book and I'm
Mhm.
underlining, in the front cover, when I open the front cover, it's blank, those pages, 2 pages. I will write every idea that's meaningful to me that I got out of that book. Like this could be a game changer for me. So I'll write P for personal and put what page number and what the topic was. If it's for B, I'll put business and I'll put what page number. So I can go back to any books I've read and look in the front cover and know what was important in that book for me. And then I can go to those pages and they're underlined. What was important. So that's a tip that has helped me.
Okay. That's a really great tip right there. Yeah. It's better than the sticky note version, but one thing that you do very well, we've stayed at your resort in Hawaii, and I think you've dug into that very well. It's like families like a place to go where they can spend time together. That hasn't changed. That's never going to change. And you're creating spaces where families can do that. And one of the other members who was there, he helped develop one of the hotels that I stayed at in Kona. The first time I went to Hawaii, I was a nanny for a wealthy family. And I didn't grow up in a wealthy family, but they're fairly well off, right? So I nanny for this wealthy family, and we walk into this resort, and I remember just standing there, and I was telling him this. I didn't know how wealthy people lived. I had never really been exposed to that before at that level. And I just remember standing in that resort and thinking like, these people have got it figured out, and I live in their house with them, and they're gonna share all of their life knowledge and secrets, and over the next year and a half that I lived with them, that indeed happened. They had me reading books on their bookshelves. We were having discussions around the dinner table that I had never experienced before, even within my own family who were no slouches as far as intellectual and success driven, and I just saw the world in a different way, and I said to this man, I said, "Thank you so much for putting this together for a place that families can go and enjoy time together because it
Yeah.
that place changed my life. It put me on a path that changed my life,
Thanks.
and you're
Well,
doing the
to your
same
point,
thing at
Emma,
your resort
when
as
you
well.
talk about they talked about things as a family and they taught their kids. When I got married, my wife, when I was asking her about her finances and how much money do you have saved, she was like, "You don't ask somebody that. She's my fiance, right? I'm asking her." My parents said you should never talk to others
Yes.
about your finances. It's no one's business but yours. I'm like, I grew up with a dad who's a financial consultant. We talked about it all the time. So here's the tip I would give anybody that's got
Yeah.
kids. Get your black book out of binder. That's what I did with my kids from the time they were 5 on. And I have a year tab. And under the year tab, I have a sheet with each of their names. And I just made a copy and then just made tons of copies of it. I just made a master that said, an ad column that said what I earned, the date, what I earned, and then how much. And then it said 10% tithing, 50% savings, and 40% was PC, personal cash. That's theirs to spend. So on the first Sunday of every month, I'd gather them together. They'd 20 minutes with dad. They'd come in my office. We'd go through their chore charts. I had all the money in envelopes. I'd gone to the bank and we divvied it up. Here's how much is for tithing. Here's how much is for savings. And we'd put their name and what it went for on the envelope. And then the last was their personal cash. And they got 40% in cash for them to spend. And then once they had a certain amount of money, we'd talk about stocks. Where can you put it? And find some stocks you like. And so my kids, as they watch their money grow, it changes the way they think. They go, "Ooh, I like this. I've got money growing.
Yes.
None of my friends have money growing. I do." So when people go, "How did you raise 6 kids that all your 5 kids plus your 1 son-in-law, they all have their own companies and they're all doing well. How did you do that?" I said, "I taught them to read and I taught them how to manage money." And then faith, right? We pray together and study scriptures once a day. And so I think that balance of the spiritual side so they can find inspiration, what they should do from on high, I think that's key, knowing how to manage money and then knowing how to learn through books. So I would say those are the top 3 things I would put to raise great kids.
Yeah. What would you be doing differently if you had a child who either would not or could not provide for themselves and their families at a high level? I have a friend, she had a devastating stroke and her husband was able to quit his job and her parents basically set them up so that he could be her caregiver.
Yes.
And
Yes.
something like that is
Oh,
like something out of their control for
my
them. But
father
what do you
used
do
to
when it's
say,
not completely out of their control?
being equal isn't always fair. My dad says fair is helping each kid based on their
Okay.
own needs, based on their abilities. And so some don't need help as much
Mhm.
as others. And he said, I want to take care of my kids and make sure I'm fair to them, but that doesn't necessarily mean equal. So for my grandkids, I've set up a legacy trust. I'm gifting them all money every year. It goes into this trust, but they can only get it up for college tuition, for church service. They want to do missions, for a down payment on a home, for a wedding, and for health issues. So it's listed what they can get it out for. So the trustees will do that for my grandkids and great grandkids. They come and say, here's what we need. The committee goes through it, approves it or not. And so that's how that money will be used for generations to help them, give them a step up. Now, our attorney once said, I've never seen kids that have just all made it on their own without living off trusts. How did you do this? And it's the same things I just shared with you. And he said, that's unusual to have kids that are that motivated. But I did set up a trust for them where it had
Mhm.
those things that help on missions, down payment on a home. And so that allowed them all to get into a home once they could qualify. I helped them with the down payment. So I
Okay.
think there's things parents can do to help the next generation. And so when the attorney asked my kids, how did you guys all become so successful? They said, because my dad helped us he gave us a leg up without entitling us. He helped us. And it gave us a safety net that we dared
Yes.
go try things because we knew if things got bad, they'd help us. And we went out and tried. So I think you can help your
Yeah.
kids without ruining them.
Yeah. It's so good there because it's hard to know what is worth helping
Yeah.
and what's enabling. And Dave Ramsey talks about this a lot. You don't give a drunk a drink, but you also, if your kids are going to want to
Right.
do something, you should match that, not pay for it. Like he has all sorts of things on this that have been very helpful to me as a
Well,
parent. And it sounds like you practice some similar things. Like you
you
set
know
up, this
how
is what I'll pay for, and this
Facebook
is what I won't
feeds
pay
you
for.
the little reels of things you listen to? Church ones pop up, Trump and Elon pop up, and Dave Ramsey. So every day I'm flipping through and listening to his advice because he's
Yeah.
right on most things. And especially when he talks about a prenup, he said, I used to say, oh, you should never do a prenup. If you don't love somebody enough to give them half of what you own, you shouldn't marry them. And he's found now that he's been doing this 30 years, prenups are really good. You should have them. If you have money
Yeah.
when you get married, get a prenup
Yeah.
because without it, it encourages divorce. Because if you have money and the other one doesn't, first time you fight, they think, I'm going to
Mm.
take half your pot and go. They're going to hurt you. If they're mad at you, they want to take half your
Yep.
money at
Yep.
least. And so he said, once you've done it
Yeah.
for long enough that you trust and you know that your marriage is strong, then you could always get rid of the prenup. So anyway, that's a whole nother issue. I could talk on any of these topics for a day, but that's it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting, like, when you got married or when I
No.
got married, like, we didn't have anything, so there was no up to have, but when my dad got married for the second time, it was something they had to think about, like, providing for the heirs, not just the new spouse, and so it changed the
Yeah.
matrix on that second time around when he got married, when you have something and you have children that you want to inherit, so definitely good advice there, and this is one of the reasons I love hanging out with you because you have just so much insight on so many different things, so let me ask you, when we were at a retreat in Hawaii at your resort, and your one of your board members had asked you to give a talk to the group that looked at some of the hardships that you had experienced. And she said, you're very optimistic. You talk a lot about what's gone well. So you gave this talk on what didn't go well. And I had never heard any of these stories before. Some of the injuries, some of the difficulties that you had, and what you were still doing and working and surviving like through all of this. Can you repeat some of those that were big
Okay,
turning
I
points in your
started
life? And
this
what did you
Zenith
learn from those
mastermind to help
experiences?
people get through these challenges and be successful. And like I talked about it in Hawaii, I said on this balance wheel, we have the three primary things, which are faith, family, and finance. If any of those are broken, you don't do well. The others are your fitness, fun.
Yeah.
If you're not enjoying life, why are you doing it? And the last one is fulfillment. What are you doing to serve others and give back? So those are the six things. And I said, every one of these is going to be like a roller coaster, and there's a time and season for everything. When you're young, your finances aren't strong. Your spirituality could be, or your body could be perfect. You go to the gym every day. So that's going to change over time, which ones are stronger. But the goal is try to keep them all balanced as you get older, have balance in each area. And so I told him it's not always been easy going for us. And I remember when we started Health Benefits America, the company I sold to ADP, it took a lot of money getting it going. And I was on the road all the time. And we were only taking 35,000 a year and I had four kids. And even that sounds like a lot now. It's probably 80 or 90,000 now, but still that didn't seem like a lot when you have four kids that are growing up.
When you're
Kids.
working that hard.
And I remember always laying in bed at night trying to figure out how I was going to pay the next bill. Which one has to be paid next? And in my mind, I'm always trying to figure out how to balance the checkbook for the company as well as me personally. So it used to be really hard. In the day that you become financially independent and you have enough money, you don't have to work, that pressure's gone. If you can get to that point, it's wonderful because I don't have nights I'm laying on my pillow figuring out how I'm going to pay a bill.
Mhm.
If the water heater goes, I don't go to my room and cry like I would at one time. One time I had a heater go, a boiler, and it was one of the triplexes I'd remodeled, and I didn't have the money, and it was $1,700. And I wrote him the check, and I didn't know how it was going to clear. And luckily, I got a bonus check from my insurance because of so much business I'd written. They gave me some bonus that wasn't expected. And that's when I learned God takes care of you. When you're trying your best and you're paying your tithing, I found it worked for me. Things happened when I was in rough spots, but there's times that I had 7 surgeries in 3 years from broken bones, doing dumb things, trying to keep up with 5 sons. I had 2 shoulder surgeries.
How you got
No,
injured was
I
really fun,
so I've
but
had
the
a lot of
injury itself was
surgeries.
not.
I'm very fit. I still do runs, triathlons, and I'm 73. It's a matter of keeping everything in balance, right? But I went through the wheel and I talked about something hard in each one of these when I was at an all-time low. Spiritually, when I had a faith crisis at one point,
Mhm.
I had a financial crisis at one point. At some points, I felt like, why am I married? There's days you feel like that. Everybody goes through a day where they feel like, I marry this person. And I'm sure she has more of those days than me, but I just said it's that way for everybody. You're going to have good times and bad times. It's a roller coaster. You just hope that the curve's going up. It's getting better and better as you get older. And surveys done show that every decade, people are actually happier as they get older. I think they're under less financial stress. They've learned how to deal
Yes.
with life. And at some point, they learn their kids are their own free agents and you can't do everything for them and you can't fix everything. And you have to kind of let go sometimes. Yeah. So it's not always easy.
Yeah, I know after you gave that talk, later that night, we were sitting around in the hot tub and I introduced you to the kids. And later they were like, wow, I wonder what it would be like to own a resort like this. And I said, this resort has a story of challenge and heartache. And you said something that really stuck with me. I don't know exactly how you phrased it, but you said this property has not been a blessing to me or not been a blessing to our family. Something along those lines. And you were talking about how difficult it was after 2008 to try and be selling condos that nobody wanted and then trying to make it a hotel that nobody would pick up. And then COVID, you're finally getting to the point where you might be feeling like, oh, this place is going to do well. And then COVID hits. So you've had this place a really long time. And while it's fun to own and it's fun to visit, it doesn't come without its fair share of challenges. How are you sticking through those challenges now when you're like to the point where you don't have to work anymore, but now you're taking on some really difficult things? I would be panicking. I can't
Yeah.
pay for stuff on my
Well, we
properties. I
certainly
have a
went
little
through
freak
that on
out.
that resort, just like you said, when Kauai shut down during COVID. Even if you tested negative, it was a mandatory 2-week quarantine in your hotel room. You couldn't leave.
Like a
And
quarantine.
they had the National Guard come every day and check every one of our
Yep.
guests and make sure they were in their room and they had to show their driver's license. If not, it was a $10,000 penalty. And they
Wow.
really did that. So we were at 12% occupancy for 2 years. And we had to stay open because we had sold a few of the units at first and people were living in them. So we had to stay open. We had no choice. And it was really rough.
Mm.
That's why I say everything that appears really good to everybody, if you dig in, most of them will tell you it hasn't always been that way.
Yeah, true. But at the same time, I didn't want to tell my kids, like, hey, don't buy real estate. Don't take risks. Don't go to business because sometimes it's hard. So it's hard. I was like, I wanted to say, we're going to take off the shiny veneer of this beautiful resort. But at the same time, I don't want to discourage you by saying, this has been really
Well,
challenging. So how do you
you
balance
can
those two
never
things?
predict how things are going to go. Sometimes you take that leap of faith, whether you're starting a business or buying a
Yeah.
property, and things happen. If you've watched Property Brothers, how often were they coming and saying to the owner, "Oh, I got bad news. When we went in here, the main beam's broken. We got to do this. It's going to cost 12,000 more." That just happens. It's life. And so you just work through it. You have to figure out, you sit down instead of getting emotional, think of options. What's the best way to do this? So my 2 partners on the hotel, we just sit down and talk about, okay, how are we going to survive this? What are we going to do? And we sat and figured out options of what we could do. And we had to have a vote at one point whether to shut the project down, walk away from it, what to do because we were losing so much money. But we all decided, no, we're going to make it work. And so we did. So when you have hard times, you just have to sit down, get smart people around you and ask their opinion. What would you do? And swallow your pride. They've all been there. Every smart person's been there. They have things they're not proud of, investments that went bad. Everyone. No one's ever had it all go good. So to get smart people on and ask them, what do you think I should do? And you'll be shocked. Even in a round table at Zenith, a mastermind, you get together and somebody says, I have this issue, and they go around, you'll get so much wisdom out of a table of just every day. business guys, right? They all have a lot of
Yes.
wisdom. So ask some people you really trust when you're going through a hard time and get their opinion. It really helps.
Yes. And that's one thing about you in particular that has struck me. I was at a funeral recently. My best friend's father passed away. And after the funeral, everybody gets up and they're telling stories. Right. And so I was one of the first people to get up, but a few people had gone before me and they were telling about how they were adopted into this family, about how they had the difficulties in their own home and they would go to this home to feel safe and all of these things. And I remember with my best friend, like I felt like another daughter, like at my actual wedding they were the only people there. Her parents were the only people there who weren't blood related to me, first degree blood related. These were my second parents. Here, everybody's telling the story about how they're their second parents. And I stood up and I said, I felt special before today. And I realized like, this is just what they do. They had adopted, legally adopted several children. They had unofficially adopted a few more. And then they're all their kids' friends that felt like we had been adopted. And I was thinking about you at that event from your birthday party a couple of years ago and how everybody was standing up and telling stories about all of the wonderful things that you had done, and I don't know how many people were, hundreds of people. And I remember thinking about my best friend's dad, and I remember thinking about you and thinking like, how do they do this? How do they have so much time when you're so busy running businesses and doing all of these things, but then you still have time to make humans feel special, like they're your special adopted friend. The emotional energy, the amount of mental energy,
I'll share
how
this.
do you
It's a
pull
little
that off?
personal. People that are religious will get it, but I learned after I sold my company that every day when I say a prayer in my morning prayers, I say, Heavenly Father, who needs me today? And I sit there on my knees and names will come to my mind. And I call them, just call them to check up on you. You okay? And you know what? Most of the time they need you. So the advice I would give is reach out to people and see how they're doing. Because when you really love them and care about them, people feel that. And a call once in a while, it doesn't have to be often. You call somebody every few months and just say, how you doing? I was thinking about you. It means so much to people. And so I've tried to do that is just see how I can help others. Because I've had people that have helped me in my life and it makes such a difference. People that bought the first policies when I sold insurance, Sears and others that believed in us when we didn't really have a lot of clients and they took the risk. People have done nice things for me. And so I try to do that back is how can I help others? And if everybody did that, the world would be a different place.
Yeah, keep going so I
Um,
can collect myself.
so anyway, that's what I do. And it's really interesting watching with Zenith, this group that comes and they're trying to do their lives better and they measure themselves on the balance wheel. Every year when they come, it's better. And they get up and talk about it openly. How somebody says, I overcame pornography. Somebody else was, I wasn't active in a religion and I started taking my kids and our life's a different place. We pray as a family together. We study scriptures. Others will say financially, we've gotten out of debt and we're on our way. Everyone has a story that have come for a while where something's gotten better for them. And so that's why I do it is how can I help everybody go to a higher level? And it makes me happy. Just like I think
Yeah.
when we're doing better, God's happy.
Yeah.
I think
I
it's the
mean,
same principle.
yeah. I after the Mexico retreat, I brought my daughter with us because my husband's passport had expired and he had forgotten to go get a new one. And so I went to my kids. I said, "Who's got a passport that wants to go to Mexico? I bought the ticket. I'm going to see if I can get the airline to change the ticket to your name." My daughter who came with me, we were flying out and she's, "Mom, I went into this retreat with a kind of TikTok woke attitude that wealthy people are greedy and selfish and they got what they have by stepping on other people." And she said, "But now that I'm leaving, these are the nicest people I've ever met in my life. I'm a know nothing, do nothing 18-year-old who just graduated high school, and multimillionaires and billionaires are wanting to help me, talk me through these issues that I'm having. I can do nothing for them other than helping them feel good that they help somebody else." And I felt like that was a really life-changing experience for her, and that's what you're creating for everybody who comes in contact with you. Not everybody at your birthday party had been to an event, but they had just the most amazing stories about how you've touched life after life after life after life, and I think you're a good example of somebody who's managed his finances well to facilitate
Well, thank you. That means a
managing
lot
his
to me.
relationships.
Yeah. Oh,
You've got me more than
well,
anybody else has ever
here's
gotten me
the
on this
thing my
show.
dad
Like,
used I'll share as we end this, right? I learned this from my dad. My dad and mom were the most charitable people. So you learn that. So you can teach it to your kids just by doing little things for others. And that's one thing Jen Gardner's really good at. She's always out doing stuff for other people. Watch her. She's really good
yes.
at that. My dad used to say, I want the world to be a better place because I got up this morning. He'd say that every day when we'd get up. Make the world a better place because you got up this morning. And so you learn that. It's a mindset. And so he taught us pick up litter. Every time you're walking into a store, there's litter in the parking lot, pick it up. Make the world a better place. Take in a shopping cart that's sitting out in the parking lot. He used to always go, there's a widow down the street needs her walk shoveled. Go and shovel them. Don't even ask, just go do it. And he used to always say that, make the world a better place. And so honestly, my brothers and sisters are just, they're like me. They're always serving. And you go talk to anybody that knows my brothers and sisters, they'll go, oh my gosh, he's the most amazing scoutmaster, or they're the most amazing neighbor. They put up all this salsa and bring it around to everybody every Christmas, or they'll just say things like that. So where did that come from? It comes from good parents teaching kids to go out and serve and make the world a better place. So I just leave with that thought. Just try to make the world a better place because you got up this morning.
Yeah. Yes. And my sister made a comment one time. She goes, I feel like I want to make the world a better place, but I'm expecting some karma back, which means I'm not going to get the karma because I have to do it do you feel like you need to do it with no ulterior motives, or
Oh,
do you believe
I don't
in
do
that
it for
effect
that
of karma?
reason, but that totally happens. Karma is so real. I could tell story after story. We could be here for all day of things I've done. And then later something's happened back to
Yes.
me from one of those people, unbeknownst to them, or they didn't even know I was bidding on this property or whatever. And they were on the city council and proved it. Just weird things. And I always say, what goes around comes around. It's really true. You'll find that in
Yes.
your life. The more good you do, the more good things come back to you. It's just a fact of life.
Yes. Getting to do that without
It
karma and
takes
not doing it
time, but
for
over
karma.
time,
Now
you
that's
learn to
the real
really
trick.
work.
And I think
Yeah.
yes, definitely. I really appreciate you spending some time with me, with my listeners, and sharing your hard fought wisdom and the lessons of success. Because what we're all aiming for, listeners on the show, are to get to the point of success
Yeah.
where we start to have a different type of problem than we already have. Like how to raise your kids in abundance without ruining them, like how to serve others in a way that helps without enabling. All of these kinds of things are problems that we want to have and problems that we want to work through. And I appreciate you sharing your experiences. And how can people more about
Infinite
Zenith
Mind is in
and
the App Store
Infinite Mind
free,
just
and
to
then you
close? And if
can
anybody
check out the
needs,
upgradable version that will be available after April 1st, 2025. And that's just under Infinite Mind brain exercises. And then if they want to learn about about Zenith Mastermind, it's in Utah. We have people come to the retreats from other states. They're not here to come to the speaker
all
series every
over.
other month. But there's some come every year to the retreat, the mastermind retreat. Next year we're going to do Costa Rica the second week of March. So a lot of people are saving up for that one, but they're
Yes.
really great. You come back with lots of friendships and a lot of new knowledge and you're motivated. They're great. And that's zenithmastermind.com.
Yes. I've really enjoyed them. It's one of the few masterminds I repeat at. I'll go back because there's always something a little different every single time, and different people that I meet. Any of you out there listening want to get in touch with Jeff directly because you feel led to reach out, let me know and I'll put you in touch. So I really appreciate you following along and being with us on this journey as we are openly sharing our own journey to passive income and going on adventures and bringing mentors like Jeff and the other guests into our lives to hopefully so you can listen to all the conversations and benefit from the stories and the knowledge that we're sharing here. And I really appreciate your time. I don't take it lightly because that is our most precious resource. If you like what you hear, would love to talk to you, partnerwithrise.com/Emma, and we can have a conversation about whatever you want to talk about. There's a whole balance wheel of stuff, all 6 things, whatever you need some help with. And I will do my best to connect you with the people who can help you most with
Thanks.
what it is
And
that you're working on. And
thanks,
thank you
Emma,
so
for
much
spreading good
joining
news
us
around
on
the
this
world.
episode. Thank you,
Helping
Jeff.
people. You bet.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you for helping me
My
do that. It takes a guest spending your time to spread that around.
pleasure.
And I will see you on our next episode of Passive Income Adventures.